Do a bunch of graphing examples here so you can just sort of get the hang of this. Okay, here's a function. We got -7 times x plus 1 times x minus 2 squared. You can see that we got a y-intercept at 0 and -28. So let's go ahead and plot that. We got 0 and -28. Our x-intercepts, we only have two of them because we only have two factors, right? The 0 that goes with x plus 1 is -1. So we're going to put a 0 at -1 and 0. And then we got x minus 2, and the 0 that goes with that is x equals +2. So we're going to put that over here at +2 and 0. The multiplicity of x plus 1 is 1, so it's going to cross over at x plus 1, or at -1. The multiplicity of x minus 2 is 2. That's even. That means the graph is not going to cross over. It's going to bounce off the x-axis at 2, 0. The lead coefficient is -7, which means that the right side of the graph is going to go which direction? It's going to go down, right? Okay? So we know that the right side is going to go down. Okay? And then the degree, what's the degree? Well, we've got a 1 here and a 2 here. That's a degree of 3. Because that's an odd degree, we know that the left side is going to be opposite of the right side. Since the right side goes down, the left side is going to go up. Yeah. All right. Now we just got to connect these two arrows in the middle. Let's go forward on this one. So let's go forward from here. Are we going to cross over at -1, or are we going to bounce off and go the other direction? We are going to cross over because x plus 1 has a multiplicity of 1. That's odd. So we're going to cross over. Then we have the next dot we encounter is the y-intercept. So we're going to go through, and then we got to turn around, and we got to go to the 2. Now, x minus 2 has a multiplicity of 2. That's even, so that means the graph is going to not cross over the x-axis. Instead, it's going to just barely touch and go the other direction. And then it's going to meet up with this down arrow here. And there we go. It's kind of a rough sketch. It's not perfect, but it's approximately what this graph would look like. Okay, here's another one. This one's kind of interesting. We've got -3 times x plus 2 squared times x minus 4 squared. There's only well, not two factors. There's 4 factors, but two of them, they're each repeated. Okay, we've got x plus 2 with a multiplicity of 2, and we have x minus 4 with a multiplicity of 2. Okay, so 2 plus 2 is 4. That makes the degree 4. The lead coefficient is -3. Also, the y-intercept is 0 and -192. Now, you may be interested in knowing how in the world am I getting this y-intercept of -192. What I'm doing is I'm taking the number on the inside of here, +2, and then multiplying it this many times. So +2 squared, that's 4. Then I take the -4 and square that. +4 or -4 squared is +16. And I multiply them. 16 times 4, that's 64. And then lastly, I multiply them by the lead coefficient, -3. And 64 times -3 is -192. So that's how I'm getting the y-intercept. Okay? All right, so we've got a y-intercept of 0 and -192. I'm going to put that approximately down here. 0 and -192. Where's our x-intercepts? Well, we've got an x plus 2. That gives us an x-intercept at -2. And we've got x minus 4. That gives us an x-intercept at +4, right? So we're going to go over here, and we're going to put a 0. We're going to put a dot at 4 and 0. We're going to put another one here at -2 and 0. We've got our x-intercepts. We've got our y-intercept. Now, our lead coefficient is negative. That means that the right side is going to be going down. Okay? All right, so this arrow is going to be going down. The degree is 4. And that means that the left side, that means that the left side is going to do the same thing as the right side. Since the right side is going down, the left side is also going to go down. Down arrow. Now we just got to connect the two by going in between here. Okay? Now, both of these zeros have a multiplicity of 2. Because their multiplicity is even, the curve is going to bounce off of the graph. So this curve is going to approach -2, and instead of crossing over, it's not going to cross over. It's going to come back. Then it has to pass through the y-intercept. So we're going to pass through the y-intercept, then we're going to turn around, and we're going to go back to 4, and we're not going to cross over because the multiplicity is even. So we're not going to cross over. Then we're going to come back down and meet up with this arrow, and we're done. That is the graph of this function. All right, last one here, and then make sure that you're, if you come up with one that looks a lot different than these, you can ask me in class, but you've got to be ready to be able to do it in class to ask me. All right, but let's go ahead and do this. What is the degree of this polynomial? We've got a multiplicity of 1, multiplicity of 2, so 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2, that's a total of 6. This is a degree of 6. We've got a lead coefficient of 5, so that's a positive 5. And our y-intercept, I multiplied this times -5, so 5 times -5 times -1 times -1, because there's 2 of them, times +1 times +3 times +3, and that gives us -225. Okay? So let's plot our y-intercept, 0 and -225. We'll put it down here somewhere. 0 and -225. Oops. Here we go. And then we have 4 x-intercepts, 4 roots. We've got 5 and 1. Let's put 5 over here somewhere. It's 5, 0. We've got 1. There's 1, 0. And we've got -1 and -3. So there's -1, -1 and 0, and then -3 and 0. Now, the lead coefficient is positive. That means that the right side is going to go up, right? So we're going to have an up arrow here. And the degree is 6. That's even. That means that the left side is going to go the same as the right side. The right side goes up. The left side is going to go up too. Okay? So we have up arrow there. Now we just got to connect between. Now, we have even multiplicity at 1 and at -3. So those are the ones where we're not going to cross over the x-axis. So I'm going to draw it backwards this time. I'm going to draw from here, and I'm going to come backwards. Are we going to cross at 5? Well, x minus 5 has an odd multiplicity, so yes, we're going to cross over. Then we're going to go turn back towards this 0 here. And because x minus 1 has an even multiplicity, we are not going to cross over. But watch this. We've got to do this tricky thing here. We've got to bend all the way down here and go through the y-intercept, right? Then we got to go back up here, and are we going to cross over at the -1? You bet we are, because x plus 1 has an odd multiplicity. So we're going to cross over. Then we have to turn back to the -3 and not cross over because it has an even multiplicity. And then meet up with that arrow. And there is a very, very rough but semi-accurate graph of this polynomial right here. Okay? And this is what you have to be able to do. You're going to have to do a lot of these to really hone your skill and understand how to sketch the graph of a polynomial. This is an important skill if you wind up going into pre-calculus or calculus or something like that. Okay? You have to understand the basic ideas and the shapes of polynomials. That's all I have for you, and that's it for this unit. Next week we're going to be reviewing, so you better get to this stuff and know how to do it. All right? See you in class.